You're listening to Productivity Monsters in the Morning. We are the energy vault your real estate business needs to get you up and out and excited and productive for the day. We go over trending topics and things that really matter in the market of the moment. Here are your hosts, Tiffany Hampton and Brooke Silva.
Good morning, Brooke Silva. Good morning. I am doing the most New Englander thing on the planet. One, I'm freezing, but two, I refuse to not drink iced coffee.
Yeah, right. Well, at the end of the day, my feet are cold. So you drink iced coffee. I still wear my flip-flops.
Oh, no, I have like 6 pairs of socks on.
But then I have a blanket covering my flip-flops, so there you go.
And you probably have like a space heater that's just for your feet at some point.
Yes, it is not on right now because I'm trying, like, the cost of energy is a joke. So I'm trying to be like really responsible, keep the heat down to 60,
You could, I have a solution for you.
Oh, you do you?
Oh, you could put socks and shoes on.
I let my feet like.
I mean, do we need to make this a success habit? What could I do today that if did today would make everything else easier or unnecessary, Tiffany?
It's going to sound really crazy. I think better in flip-flops than I do in shoes.
That is a limiting belief.
I will die with that.
All right, we're going with that. What a great segue into today's topic, which is the 80-20 principle, Pareto's law, Pareto's principle, whatever you want to call it. But we're talking about the 80-20 today that we talk about often in our world.
Yes. So essentially, 20% of what you do is the result, gives you 80%, right? So if you're a Netflix binger, and that's what you spend your 20% on, what's your 80% going to be?
Your house is dirty. Yeah, not cleaning the house, not cooking good meals, not putting socks and shoes on.
I will wear flip-flops all winter. So let's just talk about it, right? We know, and it's proven in everywhere we go, that 20% of what you do results in 80% of what you desire in life. Mm-hmm. So if your goal is to close 24 houses in the world of real estate, where are you spending your time? Are you spending it in the 20% that's going to get you there? Or are you spending it in that 80%?
Yeah. And I think what happens is our agents get so caught up in being busy, and busy and productive are very different, right? Busy. If I'm busy, if I'm constantly putting out fires, it means I'm productive. But oftentimes then when we ask you why you're not hitting the goals and you talk about what you're doing, and we ask, well, is that in your 20%? Is that in your money making, dollar producing activities? And usually the answer is
no.
Nope.
And why? Get in trouble because we want to do the easy stuff first so that we could check it off the list so that we can think we're productive. But it's the big rocks that might take 3 months to accomplish that give us the results we desire. So there's that video from back in the day, and I feel like it was the 70s.
No, it's like 80s with the big poofy shoulder pads and the hair.
Yeah.
So good.
And they had a jar and they filled it with rocks. And the question was, is this full, right? And the answer was no, because there was still more room. However, the priority was to put the big rocks in first and then the pebbles and the sand, because if you did it the opposite way and you put the pebbles and the sand in first, there was no room for the big rocks.
Right. So that is also part of 6 personal perspectives that we teach. So the big rocks go in first. So what can I do? What is the exact one thing phrase we say?
What is the one thing? By doing such, everything else becomes unnecessary or easy, right?
So one of the things that we look at is, I knew I was caught up in this before coming to KWs. I created task lists. And when I hit that checkbox or clicked the little thing in my project management software, I felt productive. But then sometimes at the end of the day, and it's easier when you live in a project management world to see these things, I would look at a project and go, if I had done this first, these 7 tasks would have been unnecessary. Who's building this project? Because I was not the project manager. I was on the team. And it was so frustrating to me that I had to do X, Y, Z. But if I did this, these things became absolutely unnecessary. It drove me bananas as an operational brain to be on that team when the high priorities were not being hit. The project manager was stuck in the minutia of silly little details that didn't matter. It drove me nuts. That's why I am no longer on a team like that. So let's talk about today's affirmation, because you're going to be like, why does this have to do with the 80-20 principle? And it's, mistakes are growth opportunities.
Right. Because I wholeheartedly believe you don't win or lose in life. You win and learn. And sometimes the learning is better than the win. So when you make them, yeah, right. When you make a mistake, what do you do with that mistake? Do you just make the mistake and cry?
I'm going to just go sit in the corner by myself.
Or are you going to learn from it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you learn from it, what does that look like? And then what is the next opportunity?
The other thing is, I think when we get to a certain level, as business owners, we feel like we have to do everything at this high level of perfection. And we're not using the systems and tools necessarily in the right way, that by doing so would make our lives so much easier and some tasks unnecessary. And as much as I hate automation when it comes to communication, there are times where it makes a difference and it matters. Things like having automated emails go out every month, set it and forget it, so I don't have to worry about communicating with my data bank consistently and systematically, not just at the holidays or their birthdays. The other thing is, I think people either fear a task list to turn into a success list, or they're so overwhelmed they don't even know how to put pen to paper. So let's talk about a 411 and how that can help.
Right. So essentially, we create the big rocks, right? And this is your coaching action. Really identify the big rocks that you need to do daily. In my world, and a 411 is 1 goal, 1 month, 4 weeks. That's essentially what 411 stands for. So in my world, I have my job, and then I have my coaching company, and then I have my personal life, and then I have my money. So my 411, I have goals in each one of those categories. So what I do with that is I will put, okay, what's my annual goal? What's the big rock? What do I desire to accomplish? And then this month, what big action do I need to take to make that happen? And then I break down that monthly action into 4 weeks or 5 weeks, depending on what it is. And sometimes we finish it before the end of the month, the end of the year, or the end of the week, and we just replace it. Because if you're always living in the 20%, you're going to accomplish stuff. The other thing that I thought was absolutely phenomenal, and I'm assuming it was Gary Keller who said it, and yet it's probably someone within KW, have your to-do list on the back of your 411, and you don't flip that paper over until you've knocked out that 20%. And what you'll find is some of that stuff on that back of the paper, you never have to touch. And anything that becomes important will move to the front of the paper and become a priority.
So I've got this quote for him that I keep over here on my desk, because I pull this quote out all the time from the one thing, and it says, activity is often unrelated to productivity, and busyness rarely takes care of business.
Right.
So one of the things we do with people when they're saying, I don't have time, I need an admin, is I ask them to take a week and write down everything they do for like have a scratch pad, a legal pad, whatever. Write it down. Time it. Like tell me at 10:10, grabbed a coffee at 10:22, called this person at, then put out a fire, then did this, then sat and chat for 20 minutes. Because what you're going to see is a pattern of where you're living. And if what you're doing for actions is not in your dollar producing time, then it needs to go, or it needs to go somewhere else.
Right.
I even time block my social time when I was working in the market centers because I'm a social being and I know I need it. And I gave myself permission for 15 minutes after doing a 2-hour block to get up and walk around. It was my time to get coffee, hit the ladies' room, and have a few chats with people. Also to be respectful of others' lead gen time.
Right. And when you look at your, so you figure out what your big rocks are, then you break it down into bite-sized pieces, and then you go to your calendar and you actually schedule it out on your calendar. What people often fail at is they literally schedule every minute of their day.
Yeah.
And then they're setting themselves up for failure, right? So what does it look like if you do a 45-minute hustle or sprint, right? And then you take a 15-minute break, and then you do another 45-minute sprint, and then you take a 15-minute break, right? Because you have to give yourself grace, number one. And number two, you have to give yourself the time to be a human, because we're not computers.
We're not. I mean, my husband thinks I am because of the tech brain that I live in. And here's the other thing I think people make a mistake with their calendars. So if you were to look at my calendar, I've got multiple. In my main calendar that I view, not my actual like KW calendar, I have blocks that every color represents something. And it's the only thing I color code in my life. Green are dollar activities. Gray are things that I could move anywhere except those green blocks. And if I have things like purple is for personal growth and all these things, then my real calendar is where I fill in around those times that are meant for those things. Now, this was not an easy task. This took, it was Alan Rice who worked with me and did this. He was the one who said, write it down for 2 weeks straight, what you do and what takes you, if it's a business activity or if it takes you out of business. So then we looked at those things, and he was the one who figured out the social time was so important to me with my personality. So he said, you have to time block that in and do it. And if you have to move it, move it. But you've got to, if you erase, you must replace. But he said, Brooke, you even have to time block your lunches. And that's why I'm all over you about this. Lunches can be with people. You can do business lunches, but we all deserve the ability to get up, get out, take a break, eat, nourish our bodies, have more coffee like I do, and either build a relationship or just enjoy some alone time to re-energize and get yourself ready for the second half of the day. And I think so many of us don't do that. We use that time to drive somewhere, to get to the next destination. But if you time block the driving time, and we have all these tools, use Waze. If you got to be somewhere at 1 o'clock and you put in, I have to be here at 1, it'll tell you what time you have to leave.
Yep.
But you got to block it. And when you start, if you create a new calendar in your Google space, it's so easy to change the color, and it's so easy to put that in. So every day from 9 to 11, I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, or 9 to noon. From 1 to 4, I'm always doing XYZ. And then you open it up for appointments, right? Appointments can be yellow or whatever color you want. Anything that is going to get you in the door. Even time block things like checking social media, because that can be a time suck.
How many times have you said, oh, I'm going to go post this, and then 2 hours later, you're still scrolling? Ugh.
And that's why I use the tools. And if part of your lead generating is making sure you're on social media, then you have to be so vigilant in time blocking. And that's why I also love using the tools that we have at KW to send out. I pre-publish my social posts a month out. They're all ready to go, and I don't even have to think of it. And then once a month, I do my monthly planning for the next month. And in an hour, I have all my posts scheduled for the next month.
Yep.
And I don't think.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other piece. So just take the social posting for an example, right? If you were to schedule 2 hours on your Monday morning, your Sunday evening, whatever it is that you do, and you literally post all those, then you're hyper focused on what do I need to post. But if every morning you wake up and you say, what am I going to post on social media? What does that do for you?
Oh, it gets your wheels spinning, especially if that's not your zone of genius, right?
Right.
That's the zone I live in because I'm a creative brain, right? What do you call me?
You're a mechanical integrator.
At some point in my life, I'll remember that phrase. I'm going to go put it in my signature so that way I remember it. But this is where we talked about in previous episodes where it's find the people that can do that, or the tools that I do, we do, they do, it does it. This is one of those times where you can go from I to it and let the technology do it. Because not only does Keller Williams give you a ton of social posts that are ready to go, quick posts, every Monday, the region gives its agents and everyone there posts that are engaging and get you in front of your communities in different ways, because we can't just post about real estate. I'm sorry.
Right. You know, and I use the example of turning 49 and the weight loss thing in yesterday's. When you think of that, though, it's really hard to stay consistent and stay on top of what you're supposed to do, because we are not disciplined to do that stuff. So it is recreating a habit if it's not a normal part of your world. The cool thing, though, is once you create the habit, it's unconscious competence, right? You just know what you're doing. So it's really difficult at the beginning to take the conversation of, okay, my goal is to, in 5 years, have X. In order to have that, I need to have this accomplished in 3 years, this accomplished in 1 year, and this accomplished next week, right? But once you do that, then you stay out of your own way and you just move into that action. You know, some of the things I used to do is I used to get an egg timer and I would set it for 10 minutes. And I would just take action on it, right? And then that 10 minutes turned into 20, into 30. So give yourself grace. It's a process. If you know that you need to stay in the 20%, that's half the battle.
And I'm going to give you guys a tech action today that might not feel great in the beginning, but I'm telling you, once you turn it into a habit, it's going to be fantastic. So Tiffany and I, if you email us and say 411, not only are we going to give you the 411 sheet, we have the PDF, but I'm also going to give you my time blocking master sheet. And I urge you to go in and create a new calendar in Google. You can Google how to do it. It's fantastic. And what I want you to do is in your KW or your work email where you would normally look at your calendar, create this one and just call it Time Blocking Master. And put the big rocks in of what you should be working on. And then in your real calendar, fill those in with those appointments, right? If you have appointments with clients, when do you have to leave? Your lunch, your social time, posting on social media. Don't go so granular that it becomes overwhelming. But then I'm also going to post one of my favorite cube timers that's a little more gentle. Let me tell you, that ding would scare the crap out of me and I would scream because I tried that. I found a little cube timer that's got like 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 15, 10 on each side. But the other thing is I live by notifications, and I know it drives some people crazy, but between my Apple Watch, my Mac, my phone, what I do is I go in and I set reminders in my time blocks. Yep. So I'm giving myself a cue that, hey, in 15 minutes, you need to be done. Hey, in 10 minutes, you have to be done. 3-minute warning. So I'm getting notifications, and you can actually put those in any Google Calendar slot. You can go to the bottom and add notification, add notification. That has changed my world. Then you set these up recurring. So every day, Monday through Friday, I do XYZ from 9 to noon.
Yeah. And what I love about that exercise is my computer, when it's time to change activities, my computer actually freezes. If I'm in Google and I'm doing something, it doesn't let me continue until I acknowledge that reminder.
That's how I live. So I will put that timer in the show notes for you guys. I have one in my home office and I have one in my actual office in a market center. It's fun. It's tactical. You flip it over. The other thing is really get into that time blocking master, print it out, write down what you do. Even if you just do it for a week, 2 weeks is really a better gauge of how you spend your time. This is a Covey method. Right. This is a how to get the most out of your time Covey method, because then you can say, why am I doing these things? Mm-hmm. Who else can do them? What else can do them? And even if you're a solo agent, doesn't mean you can't build a team of people around you who can do these things or use a service or a tool we have.
Right.
So,
yeah. And the other thing is you can bunch activities. It's like, I always use the example of going to the grocery store, going to the dry cleaner, and going somewhere to get gas, right? Why wouldn't you do those all at the same time instead of doing them randomly over different days and times?
Or
right?
Who else can do it in your life?
Right.
I have teenage kids, and when they are home, I leverage the hell out of them because they like to be out driving. That's the other thing. But if you've got people in your life who are out and about and doing things, find them and have them help you really get clear. But here's another thing. I explained it to my kids in a way that said, but I need to do X, Y, Z so we can get to this big goal of going to Disney or whatever it was.
Yep.
That means I have to be super focused during these times. That means I can't do certain things. Who wants to help me achieve our goal as a family? And what I realized during that exercise is I don't ever share my big goals and why I work so hard for them.
Right. I know. I think I've shared this before, and if not, like my littles in my world, they're like, what's Gigi's favorite thing? Work.
Right?
And that's not what it is, right? It's being able to deliver like the most amazing life for all the little people in my world.
Right. And mine is making sure that my kids never have to work the way my husband and I have worked in our lives, that they can enjoy school, that they can have the things they want by working hard, but not working 3 jobs like I did when I was younger, and doing all the things I needed to do to make sure everybody had what they needed. So also share your big goals. And the other really cool thing that happened with that is all of a sudden I noticed other things got picked up that I wasn't asking for because they were already out and they knew we needed it, because I have lists at home. You know what I mean? Like I have, we need this at the store, or somebody needs to pick up dry cleaning. All those little things, I didn't even have to think about it anymore. I put it on a board. Somebody picked up the ball and ran with it. And it was so wonderful because guess what, Tiffany? Somebody can pick up the dry cleaning the same way I do.
Doesn't have to be me.
Right? Oh, somebody can put the dishes away, and I don't care if one spoon is out of place, because guess what? The dishes were put away.
Yeah.
It's control.
Is it control?
I think we live in a world of control freaks because we're business owners. But somebody else can do it better, so I can focus on our big rocks. Or if I just let go of some things, made a huge. So mistakes are growth opportunities. 80-20 rule. Coaching action.
Identify the big rocks. Make sure you're looking at them daily. Big rocks go first, and then everything else, it will either unnecessarily disappear because you don't need it in your world, or they will show up and end up on your 411.
And then mine is, my tech coaching action for you is put dollar producing blocks in your calendar, print out those sheets from us, and really get granular on what needs to be in the calendar. Because also, if you wait 15 minutes, the world doesn't.
Are you sure about that?
Positive. You do know that the MLS and people don't work 24 hours a day, right? So things 9 o'clock can't get resolved to the next day anyway.
There was a time in real estate when we weren't on call 24/7, and deals still happened.
And they're still going to happen.
Yeah.
And if we get organized and we understand our 80-20 and those big rocks and filling around it, guess what? All those fires, most of them go away because we are self-creating them for busyness in the farce of productivity.
100%. Because it is easier to do the little stuff and pretend to be productive than it is to do the big stuff and be uncomfortable.
Wow. Big
Yeah.
stuff. Big stuff today. All right. Our books and my timer are in the show notes. Go ahead and grab it. Tell me what you think. I love it. It's on sale right now. It's silly. It's little. I'm looking for it on my desk. And if it's not here, that means the littlest one has stolen it once again. I think I'm going to have to buy her one for Christmas. She loves it. So I guess I can
And
have to
just
buy her one.
remember, you just mentioned the little one. What you are showing up as is how people are watching you. So what kind of influence are you putting out to the world?
All right. Go out and put good stuff into the world.
Yes. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Hopefully it's not snowing.
It's not going to stop.
I hope not.